Is Jem Bowden, and I am an education consultant at the Mathematician of Victoria. Like most of you, I am now working at home, but not today. Today, I am actually working from my husband's bar, which is shut down, and I do have a little participant with me. His name is Tom. Like many other people who might have multiple children at home, it was time for Tom to have a little bit of a break from home and spend time with me. I can see that most of you are on mute, and we've got 18 people here. My experience with WebEx is that as soon as someone starts talking, they take over the conversation. So for the first 15 minutes, I would like to just have everyone on mute, and then I'll open things up for discussion. So the purpose of today's webinar is to discuss what we're doing in MTQ, maybe give you some background if you've never participated in Maths Talent Quest before, in what Maths Talent Quest is like, and then to talk about the changes that we've implemented in 2020, knowing that students will most likely be learning from home for the whole of term 2, and this will also impact on our regular judging process. So the first focus of the Maths Talent Quest is for students to take part in the process of working like a mathematician. In Victoria, it is open to all primary and secondary students, and the aim is to make us think about getting students engaged in mathematics and participating in an investigative process. MTQ has been running for over or close to 30 years. And the idea behind it is that students do take part in real life experiences. There's a lot of opportunities for students to communicate, and this year that will provide some challenges and perhaps some opportunities for us. The other great challenge with Maths Talent Quest is that often it is a great way for students to collaborate with each other or with other people. And this may be a little bit difficult, but it will, the opportunity of the internet will open that. Narelle, that is a great question. Other states do run Maths Talent Quest, and at the moment we actually have Fiona, who's from New South Wales, who run a very similar Maths Talent Quest to us. Which state are you from, Narelle? That would be great to know. The other thing to know is that there is a national Maths Talent Quest. So all Maths Talent Quest do come through to a national level, and each state is allowed to enter one entry per year level per category. And this year that will be run by the Maths Association of Western Australia. Narelle, I will speak to you about how Queensland run their, but they take entries from investigating science. There could be other opportunities for Queensland this year though. So who can enter? Any students from foundation level to year 12 can enter. We have straight streams from foundation through to year 9 in Victoria, and then we combine year 10, 11 and 12. And the reason for that is that we don't get as many entries from year 10, 11 and 12. If you have a child who is in an early years setting, we do accept entries from kinder and prior to kinder, although we just generally put them into the foundation level. Entries can be received from individuals, groups of up to 6 students, and from classes. And obviously classes will cause some issues for 2020, but some schools may have ways of getting around that. So tips to get started. It is a very good idea to get started working with your students early. If you haven't started speaking to students about Maths Talent Quest, it would be a great time to talk to them now. Term 2 is the ideal time for students to be working on MTQ. Our website, I'm very proud of our website, and we have a lot of information on our website, which I've shared with you already, which hopefully will answer a lot of questions. It is really important from the very beginning that students are familiar with the judging rubric. The judging rubric is generic from foundation to year 12, and it doesn't matter if you are in a small group, an individual or whole class, the rubric is relevant to all of those groups. It's a great time to give students ideas and inspirations, and I think that this is a really ideal time for students to be able to make some connections with the real world in their home environment. So some nice ways for you to set up some numeracy learning for students within their home environment and to be speaking with their parents. Some online collaboration and brainstorming sessions around their interests, their hobbies. What do they enjoy? Do they love AFL footy? Do they love cooking? What sparks joy in their lives? And also a really great opportunity to think about national and global issues. Personally, I thought this year we were going to get quite a few MTQ entries around the bushfires that have been affecting our world. I would have to assume that this year there will be a lot of opportunities for students to think about Corona and COVID-19 and how that has affected their world. There is a part of our website that is called 100 Inspiring Titles, and that is also a great inspiration for students to get ideas about Maths Talent Quest. I've just decided to include these, what I would call helpful headings within this PowerPoint, just because they're certainly not required. However, I think that they're a really good guide for students, especially if they're doing MTQ and they're obviously going to have to work quite remotely and perhaps for the first time. And I think it's really good for students to work within these headings, because if students do work within these headings, it will also meet a lot of the criteria within their within the judging rubric. So a really good question is about registration and what the teacher or parent's role is. And this also might pertain to the person who is speaking from Queensland. MAV has a lot of information on our website, which is there and it's free, which you are very, very welcome to download and utilise and access. So if you are a parent and you think, well, I'd love to do a maths investigation and I'm going to follow these guidelines, you're really, really welcome to do that. However, it is really important to know that if you are going to enter as the statewide competition, that must be entered through a school. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if you're thinking about entering, we would encourage you, if your school isn't already involved, to contact your school and see if they'd like to be involved. There is no cost at all to be involved at a home or school level, but for us to accept things through at the state level, they need to come through a school for reasons that I might be able to discuss later. So I've discussed that there. Whether you are a teacher or a parent, your role is to support them as they complete their investigations. So students might actually need to have some explicit learning and some explicit teaching happen as a part of being part of their Maths Talent Quest. That's absolutely fine. I've had situations where, you know, I've been working with my own children and we've come across working and learning things about multiplication as a part of Maths Talent Quest. As long as your students are able to explain that someone helped them with that and they're able to independently share their learning about MTQ, that's not an issue for parents or teachers to be involved in supporting their students. And that's the point that I have there. If a child can independently share their learning and answer some questions about their investigation, that's a good indication that that's their own work. The other point I would say is make sure that the student acknowledges resources and assistance that they have received. So it's really important that if they have received assistance from a teacher or from a parent, it's really great to just say, thank you to my mum who helped me by typing some of the work up, or thank you to my teacher who helped me and directed me to learn more information about bushfires or about how to do graphing. How is it judged? And you can see on the PowerPoint there is a picture of the rubric. Generally, the MTQ investigation is judged by 3 impartial and separate judges who enter scores according to the rubric, and then those are collated and we award students either a high distinction, credit or participation, depending on how they've gone. This year, schools are in control of how they judge their own entries, so we do encourage schools to use the rubric as well. When they are going to be sent through to the state level, they will be judged by a MAV staff member, and volunteers. So we hope still we will be able to judge these 3 times. This year in 2020, we will not be holding judging as we traditionally would do, just because we don't foresee that there will be the opportunity to have that many people within the same room. So no matter what, the rubric is the way that it is judged, and it's really important that your students are guided by the rubric and go back to the rubric to see how they will go. So what is different in 2020? In 2020, there will be 2 levels of judging, which is actually what normally happens. There will be school-based judging, in which there is no cost, and we would ask teachers within their school to organise that. We would hope that schools would use the rubric, although we have no control over that. And the biggest difference is that we will be providing to schools certificates that they will be able to download and give to their students. So they will get school-based MTQ 2020 certificates that they will be able to give to students at a high distinction, credit or participation level. There will also be statewide judging, and the biggest difference with statewide judging is that you will only be able to send 2 entries per category, per year level, per school. In the past, you were allowed to send 6 entries. This year, we've limited it to 2 entries because we're aware that we will not be able to have the amount of judges that we would require in one room. The other really big difference is that all entries that come through to statewide judging must be in a digital format. So no matter what, they have to be in a digital format. I don't know what that looks like at this stage. I'm not quite sure exactly how we will receive them. I would love them to just be uploaded as a part of the registration process, but we'll work through that. Entries will be at the regular cost of $35 for members and $42 for non-members. And that will really cover the administration time that we will put into doing Maths Talent Quest. So we want as many students doing Maths Talent Quest, but we do see that we cannot hold and host a statewide judging. So what we would like to do instead is open it up so as many of your students can be involved, and then you will only send 2 entries per year level, per category, per school. So just to be clear, there's no judging at La Trobe and Bundoora, and that MAV consultants will be judging that. So there won't be the onus on schools to provide judges in 2020. Unfortunately, we also do not believe that we will be able to have a state award ceremony in 2020. However, we might be able to do a virtual award ceremony, so hopefully we can make that happen. We will be sending entries through to the national competition that will be hosted in Western Australia, though, but they also have stipulated that they would like them to be in digital format. In front of you, you can see the dates that are very important. So the dates are, obviously you can start working on MTQ at any time, and I do know that some schools actually started in the beginning in term 1 and are continuing to work with their students on investigations. The actual registrations will open on the 1st of June, and we're just holding that off so we can make sure that our system is working properly and will work the best we can in this climate. We suggest that you complete your judging, and I'm really sorry I can't see that, by the 7th of August. So in the beginning of term 3, we would hope that you've got all of your judging completed so that they can be sent, registered by Friday the 14th of August and can be digitally sent into MAV on the 20th of August for us to work through. National judging will be held in September in Western Australia, and there will be no official award ceremony, but hopefully around the 20th of August, we may be able to do some sort of virtual experience where we can recognise your students and their hard work. Karen Chandler, if you can turn your mic off, that would be great, or I might actually just be able to head down and mute that. Thank you. You just give me 2 seconds. That's done now. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we come to the question and answer part of this, which is great because I said 15 minutes and we're right on 15 minutes. I'm going to just answer the questions that are my frequently asked questions in front of me. If you want to start typing questions in, go for it. And then feel free, once I've finished answering these questions, to just unmute yourself and jump in. So can I, as a parent, sorry about that typo, enter an investigation for my own child? You cannot do that to the state level, and the reason for that is that we would ask that teachers do that so that they are ensuring it's the student's own work. You can certainly ask your school to be involved in that, which is not a problem at all. But and you can certainly work with your students in an investigation at home, and we would be able to perhaps send you a participation certificate, which would be online. However, if it's going to go to statewide judging, unless you are a homeschool parent or part of some group, we would prefer if teachers send that through us. And which answers the next question. Yes, you are very welcome to use the resources without entering. However, obviously we've spent quite a bit of time and money on creating these resources. So we would love, in the form of an email or something, for you to share with us the type of work you've done and some feedback. My child is homeschooled. Can we enter? Absolutely. That's not a problem. And we've had some great success stories in that case. What happens if there's two children working in it together, but they're in different year levels? Perfect example is a 3-4 composite class. You just enter it at a year 4 level. Quite often it's very clear in the entry that it's a composite class and the students are in year 3-4, and we're able to judge that in an appropriate way. The people who are judging it are teachers, so obviously they're going to understand your students' individual needs. In saying that as well, there's been a few situations where a child might be perhaps have a special learning need, like might be have fine motor skills and unable to write, and so their parent has written for them. It's a really good idea to document that as a part of their investigation, because once again, it's teachers who are marking the investigation and they're able to assist with that. When can your child start working? Right now. So they can get started at absolutely at any time. This is often a question that I will get from parents, which will say, my school has different requirements to what you have. So perhaps they might say, my school have said that the poster size must be smaller, which isn't relevant for this year, but the poster size has to be smaller than what your poster size is. Or an example for this year might be, my school has said that they must do an investigation around bushfires because that's what they're looking at in an inquiry unit. We allow anything to be open. You need to abide by your school's rules, and then we will take your school's entries, if that makes sense. So your schools have the right to judge their entries any way that they want to judge that, and then they'll pass them on to us according to our rules. How do we know if it's the student's own work? This is a question that happens every year. Basically, we would ask on the integrity of the teachers who are entering the investigations to ensure that it is the student's own work, and we do trust teachers are professionals and they would only enter entries that are the student's own work. Quite often there are some students who do amazing pieces of work, and there is quite often times where I will call the teacher myself and say, can you ensure for me that this is their student's own work? There are situations where schools don't enter investigations because they believe that the parent has done a wonderful job or another family member has done a wonderful job, which is great, but is not in the spirit of Maths Talent Quest. Investigations are due to us by the 20th of August, and once again, it's up to schools when they're due back into schools. And then the final question has been, will there be vouchers this year? In the past, if you have won a distinction or higher distinction, you will receive a voucher either to Mav Shop. In the past, you have received vouchers to places such as Education Experience or Village Cinema movie theatres. This year, because of the constraints, we've decided that we will only be awarding certificates because we just won't have the budget to be able to cover vouchers, which I'm sure is quite disappointing for some students. However, it is what it is, and we really just want to make sure as many children are able to take part in the investigative process. So I am going to answer some of the questions that you have asked me. Thank you so much for them. One question is, can you pay for an extra entry, e.g. 3 instead of 2? If so, what is the extra cost? So the cost per entry is $35 for member schools. You could put through 3 entries, but in that case, you, for example, would only be able to put in 2 individuals for Year 3 students and 1 individual for a Year 4 students. So we would only accept 2 entries from your school from a Year 3 student individual. You might have 2 Year 3 individual and 2 Year 3 group entries, and that's absolutely fine. I hope that answers that question. The other question was, are there any digital formats we would prefer? Are there any that we don't want? Within the rules, there are a few rules around how long things such as videos should run for. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I think it is about 10 minutes. I don't think there are many formats that we would say we don't want, only because at this point in time, I'm assuming that we won't have more than perhaps 100 and 150 to manage, and so I should be able to manage that and be able to talk to teachers. If I can't open a document or whatnot, it should be easy for me to manage. I would just say it would be great if anything can be opened on a PC or an Apple Mac. So make sure that it's not just Mac compatible or PC compatible. Good question, Fiona. Do students add a journal of their investigation? This is something that has come under great discussion over the years. A journal is not required officially. We do suggest that students do have a journal and that they do supply their rough working. So in this case, I would say scanned PDFs or photographs of rough working would be fabulous. And I do suggest also that a journal is a great idea because it gives the judges an insight into the working mathematically process and the thinking behind it. We didn't stipulate that students had to have a separate journal. We used to require 2 pieces, the investigation and a journal, because we did find that older students were able to embed that thinking and those ideas within their investigations as they went through and as a part of their reports. Are there any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint so I can see you people, which will be a bit nicer for me. Yes, very good question. Could the journal be added as an appendix? Absolutely, that's a really, really good idea. So a journal and a rough working PDF or photos of rough working would be a really good idea as an appendix as the side. And I would imagine they'll all come in a folder or all put together as a PDF or whatnot. So that's a great idea. Yes, Kate, great question. Yes, so you can have 2 group entries for Year 1, 2 individual entries for Year 1, and then you could also have 2 group entries for Year 2 and 2 group entries for individual entries for Year 2 as well. So feasibly, if you think of a primary school, you could have 6 entries for every year level because you could also have 2 class entries if that's feasible for you. Cara, I will be PDFing this PowerPoint for you and sending it straight to you, or I might actually try and send it to you as a PowerPoint and see if that works. If not, I'll send it as a PDF. And I'm also going to hope that I can keep the recording of this so that I can share it as well. But yes, I will add the PowerPoint onto the MAV website. Lovely. Aside from that, I'm just really hoping that your schools will still be involved. I think it is actually a really good opportunity for students to be able to work in an extension and working mathematically area at the moment. But aside from that, yes, hopefully that will work. Kim, thank you. I would love to get some volunteer judges, so please email me directly. I know who you are, so it would be lovely to have a few volunteer judges help us. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. I don't know if we'll all be able to sit in the same room. I certainly don't think we'll be able to have more than a few people in the same room, but it might be a point where, as a volunteer judge, I'll send you 10 entries to mark from home. So yes, I would love that. And just to finish up, if anyone would actually like to, obviously I'm really happy for you to email me individually, share the PowerPoint, any questions at all. And if you need any help individually, I'm very, very good at answering questions over email, not so great over the phone. So please feel free to email me and we can make a phone conversation time. Lovely. Thank you so much. I'm glad you joined in as well. Thanks, Fiona. It's very kind of you. Excellent. And feel free to take yourself off mute and have a chat if you'd like to. I'll be hanging around for a little bit. Oh, that's great, Kim. I'm very excited that your children are excited. Thanks, Dan. It's good to see you. Thank you, Francis.